Hey there, friends. Did you know that practicing walking actually does not get your child walking? Lady, what you talking about? Welcome to another episode of Coffee with Dr. K, where today we're going to dive deep into ways to get your child up and walking without actually practicing walking. Many parents invest in walkers and push toys and standing toys to get their little ones walking better. And there's nothing wrong with these products. However, these products were actually not designed to teach your child how to walk. Now, are they fun? Sure. Do they give your child some level of mobility before they can actually walk on their own? Yes, of course they do. And with proper supervision, I don't have a problem with it. But there are actually some foundational prerequisite movement skills that your child needs to develop before they can actually start walking like a grown human being. We're going to take a few minutes and do a little deep dive into some of those prerequisite and foundational skills. One of the first things I do when I'm assessing a little one in my practice who, let's say the parents have come in with a complaint that the child loves to sit, but at 9 months old, 10 months old and beyond, they're still not pulling to stand. They're not even trying to walk. First thing I do is take that child and I lie them on their back and watch to see what happens. One of two things typically occurs. Either that child immediately rolls over, maybe pushes into a crawl position, sits down, and then goes about their business playing, or I put that child on their back and they lie there and they cry and they look around for mom or dad or anyone to help them out of that dreaded position. And so it's the latter that concerns me the most, because the child who would just lie there on his or her back is missing some key foundational skills necessary for them to even learn how to get into sitting on their own. Being able to transition into sitting from a lying position is one of the many foundational prerequisites for walking. Prerequisites for walking start early on in your child's infancy. Trunk rotation, so the ability to twist, that starts pretty early. That starts in the womb when your child is starting to roll and pivot within mommy's belly. You also see it sometimes if they're sitting in a high chair and they reach across their body to grab something to eat and put towards their mouth. You also have, like we just talked about, the ability to transition independent of mom, dad, or any external support. So if that child is lying down, they can sit. If they're sitting, but there's something that they want that's out of their reach, they can lie down, maybe get on their tummy, they can army crawl, they can roll, they can do something, but they're transitioning from horizontal to vertical, vertical to horizontal positions independently. That is a must. Another one is something we call reciprocal or alternating movement patterns. Now, this one starts really early when your baby was an infant and you would lie her on her back and maybe you would see her excitedly kicking her feet. She's kind of alternating. She might thrust both feet at the same time, but for the most part, you're seeing alternating kicks. Those are reciprocal movement patterns. And we see reciprocal movement patterns when we're walking and we swing one arm and then we advance the opposite leg. And then there's cruising. Cruising is another foundational skill for walking. And what cruising is when your child is able to pull up to furniture, maybe to the couch or an ottoman, or even some little ones can pull up to your wall and they start taking side steps. Okay? We need those and many more, but these are some of the key ones. We need these foundational skills before we can actually start to walk. The actual art of advancing one leg and then another is not a learned skill. This is actually a movement pattern that comes out of the child's spinal cord. Well, the child and yours too. It comes out of our spinal cord so we can do it without thinking. Now, that movement pattern does need to be fine-tuned. And we fine-tune that movement pattern by actually moving and exploring our environment. So we talked about fine-tuning that alternating movement pattern in infancy when your little one was doing that alternating kicking. You also see it in tummy time. So in tummy time, you might see your little one do something called a swimmer's pose, where they're lying on their belly, their arms are up, and both of their legs are up at the same time. So the only thing that's making contact with the mat or the floor is their tummy. These types of exercises help to develop the muscles in the back of their body, their arms and their legs against gravity. With frequent opportunities for movement, so during floor play, your infant will become very, very mobile in the horizontal plane, and that's what we're looking for. We're looking for prime mobility in tummy time. That little one should be able to reach for what they want, spin in circles and do tummy time, belly turns on their tummy, get things that are out of reach. They should be able to roll. They should be very, very mobile in the horizontal plane before they start learning mobility in the vertical plane. Now that your little one is proficient with movement in the horizontal plane, they are tummy time explorers. This is when it's time for them to begin practicing movements in the vertical plane. And it's not us putting them in sitting, it's them now having the core strength and stability going from horizontal to being able to push themselves up into sitting. So they did that on their own. They didn't need you to sit them down. They pushed themselves up into sitting, and now they're also exploring their environment in an upright plane. So we're working on their vision is going to become more fine-tuned. Now they're reaching across their body. They're getting the things that they want. So they're working on these reciprocal movement patterns, especially their upper half. They're doing core work, trunk work, stability, balance, all of these things they're doing against gravity. They are building these foundational skills that they are going to need when they're standing up on their 2 feet and they're walking. Okay, so we're proficient with vertical mobility now. Now what? Now you're going to start to see your little one exploring things that are really out of reach on an elevated surface. So maybe they're crawling or they're army crawling over to your couch because they see the remote or your phone or your glasses, right? And then they're starting to pull up to furniture and start to try to reach. They're standing now, standing against the furniture for balance. And now they're reaching. What happens after that is they see something out of reach to their left. So now what? Now they're holding onto the couch and they're starting to sidestep. They're sidestepping over to get the item that's in their purview. And as they're doing this sidestepping, they are learning how to balance on one foot. They're learning control, endurance. They're strengthening their lateral hip muscles, their butt muscles, all the things that are going to be necessary for them to maintain balance on one leg when they start to walk. They're also building the arches in their feet. And these arches are going to be foundational as well in maintaining balance on the soles of their feet. So today's video was really just a brief overview of some of the foundational prerequisites that are needed before your baby starts to walk. There are so many more things. There's so many other elements of the body that are at play, but I want you to know if you're seeing any difficulties in any of these areas, if you have what we like to call in my profession a happy sitter, you have a child who they love to sit, you put them in sitting and they play until they fall over and then they can't get themselves up. I'm letting you know out of the love of my heart that you probably will see some delays in their ability to walk if you don't get that addressed. So I want you to get that addressed. I don't want you to take it for granted. Will they get it eventually? Sure, they will get it eventually. But we can't always put a number on when eventually is. I highly recommend, if you're seeing this, to try a few things that we talked about in this video. Go back to the beginning and take a look at the order that things are supposed to occur. If that child cannot get themselves into sitting by themselves, can they roll over? Do they enjoy tummy time? Are they mobile in tummy time? Take it all the way back to the basics. I hope you enjoyed this video and this episode of Coffee with Dr. K. I look forward to seeing you guys really soon. Have a great day.